Hey, thanks for coming back to my channel. This is Spencer Colgan, and I just want to let you know that if you're interested in buying wallpaper, you can go to wallpaperboulevard.com at the link that you see right now on your screen, and you can get 10% off. Just give them this promo code, hashtag Spencer Colgan is wallpaper. Now, you may be saying, but Spencer, I can see the seam. But I say to you, watch this. After you get the moisture off of it, you can see that there's a bed of paste under it. You can see that will not be there when it evaporates. So if you just take your hand and push it together, you'll see that that seam will disappear. And that's how you work it. You nurse that seam and you make that disappear. Look at this one. This is the same seam. You get the point. You're perfecting the seam, and you'll do that by not over manipulating it. That's number one. 2, heat if necessary. And 3, busting the seam within a reasonable amount of time after joining the wall covering. You're looking at a seam right here. That's a seam. Cut with a single edge blade. This is eye level. This is 5.5, 6 feet from the ground. Now, if I had done this with a 9mm blade, the results would be different. So for this product, I would recommend the single edge blade. I don't like the way it feels. I feel that the single edge blade, first of all, super dangerous, because I use this as my edger. I haven't gotten fully comfortable with any particular edger that I have. I use this, I put it up against here, and then I cut up against it. This is the only thing protecting my hand from getting sliced. It's barely 3/16 of an inch. And the single edge blade, once it gets dull, likes to jump and run off and do what it wants. And the only thing in the way is your hand. So I must confess that I am not crazy about single edge blades. So here we are up close. This was only installed maybe 35, 40 minutes ago, tops. Once again, the trick to joining these patterns, this is an easy one. There's not many connecting pieces in this pattern. At the very bottom, let's call it the black line. Then right above, right here, you see another black line. Another black line. This is not a particular challenge. So if you had a challenging pattern where there was a bunch of connecting parts, the best way to make sure that all of the connecting parts connect is to cut it as close to the edge as possible, because you see it connecting. 1 inch and 1/16 this way, you don't know if it's connecting perfectly. You only know what you can see. So I advise anybody to make that cut right there, literally no more than 3/16 of an inch from the edge. Okay, let's do it. Put my 48-inch guide against I'm giving myself less than 1/4 of an inch. Like I just said, cutting it as close to the edge as possible. I flipped my blade around, so I got a new edge. And for a length this long, I'm going to switch it midway. Not always the greatest idea to stop midway, but you want the blade to do the job. You have to press firmly enough. I made a mistake by not penetrating the second layer one time when I was doing a double cut on very expensive Wolf Gordon commercial wall covering. The only ones who can teach are the ones who have made the mistakes. I want to show you the perfection that you get. Let me show you. Let's come in close to this. Let me switch you around here. You see how the guide keeps your cut straight? Now, if you were to freehand this or come down, guarantee your hand is going to do this. And with these types of wall coverings, it's your seams are revealed slightly. There's a white seam with this because when you separate the pieces you're cutting, the backing inevitably shows. It's inevitable. The way to avoid it to the best of your ability is to simply keep your blade straight. When I mean straight, I mean at a 90-degree angle with the wall. This is not straight, neither is that, but this is. And it allows you to cut through the product without creating an angle. If you do, you'll have a slicing appearance. If you were to look down a slice of cheesecake, you would see the side of the cheesecake, right? Instead of just the top of it. So once you do this, you're exposing the side. I'm sorry, that's the best way I can explain it. If your blade is not straight on with the wall, but like this, you're exposing the side of it.
Actually, let me try to explain it a little better. Picture the way we're looking at this right now from an aerial view. We're looking at the seam that doesn't show any white right now. Why? Because we can't see the side of it. How would you see the side of it? You'll only see the side of it if you reveal the side of it. If from the top you cut that material at a 90-degree angle, meaning that your blade is at a 90 with the wall, well, you're cutting straight through it. And so the side should not be showing, right? As soon as you tilt that blade, now what you're doing is, although you're still cutting through it, and you don't necessarily have to reveal the side of it, what you've done is you've made it necessary to slide the seams together. When I say seams, I mean both sides of that seam. You've made it necessary. You've created a ramp, a microscopic ramp on one of the sides because you have shaved off some of the top of it. If you look up close to a bad cut, you'll see that some of the surface at the top has been shaved off because of the angle at which you cut the seam. That's what's happening when you cut through a solid color of wallpaper and there's nothing going on in the pattern to hide your bad cut. You're slicing some of the top of it off, but it can be covered because the other side of that seam, you've cut it at an angle whereby the top of the opposite side can slide over it. But what happens is, since this stuff is vinyl and it moves and it's slippery as it's setting up after you leave that seam alone and move on in the job, what happens is that it never meets up. You'll be off a hair, and we're only speaking about a hair when we're talking about these seams. When you cut straight through, you eliminate the silliness of this issue. Easier said than done, I get it. Picture two textbooks side by side. Side by side. Two big textbooks. Naturally, in between the two textbooks is a seam, right? But now imagine removing 10% of one of the textbook's pages. You remove the hardcover, and you also remove its pages. Just 10% the way down. Now put them back together, right? What can you see on the textbook that's fully intact that you couldn't see when you put them together previous to having removed 10% of it? You can see the side of the other textbook, can't you? Why is that? The reason you can see the other side of the textbook is that you have removed the textbook next to it, whose 10% was covering the side of the other textbook, right? When you wiggle your blade all the way down and you don't have a guide that's keeping your blade directly head on with the wall, you're slicing some of that textbook's top off of the textbook, creating a situation where you can see the side of the textbook next to it. I hope that helps.
The rest is attributable to flattening it out and making the two sides, the two edges, flush. That's the best you can do in order to avoid having a white seam. After that, you can leave the rest up to the wall underneath it. Any imperfections will raise one side of the seam and not the other, thereby creating a white appearance. But we do our best. That's why they invented the seam roller and the heat, because it allows our seams to be flush.
We're on a commercial project here, and I cannot always control the noise around me. So these good folks allow me to take these videos, and we have to put up with the noise they make outside of the room I'm working in. But that's okay.
Let me show you up close. So before I pull off my overlap, you can see that it reveals the white. Why is that? Because that's the white underneath the wall covering, right? So if you're not careful cutting, and there are two ways to a bad cut. Well, there's a couple. Let me reveal. One, a dull blade, okay? Two, the wrong blade. Three, the blade at a wrong angle. If the blade is not like this with the wall, and it's like this or like this, you're going to reveal the white side of the backing. 4, texture or bumps underneath the wall covering. A professional installer has a liability with people who are not very nice nasty commercial clients. Oh yeah, just hang it over my texture. And then you don't have seams that meet up and you have a pattern that doesn't match. They start pointing fingers and then you have an issue with getting paid, etc. So these are all things as a professional you have to know. You have to bring up to your customer, hey, you got texture under here, you got bumps. This wall needs to be made, wall needs to be skim coated. Oh no, just hang it. And then they'll say, oh, you should have told me I couldn't have a perfect seam. Here's a very important thing. Please look at this. Do you see this thing? See that? Now, we know who install regularly. That's benign. It's not going to affect anything. But if you leave this here too long, and only you get to know what's too long after you know your material, here's what happens. Does any of you own a truck, a work truck, and they put compartments inside of the truck and the metal outside showing to you and the people who look at your truck, it says a dent in it, but it's not a dent going in toward the truck. It's a dent from within going out. What's going on there? Well, as your truck rattles, as you're driving, the metal, watch this, it's wrapping around this. See this little ridge here? And if you leave this too long, guess what happens? I don't want to do it to show you the point. Guess what happens? Let me just show you a little bit. You see that? This vinyl will take on the appearance of your underlap. And guess what? You're not going to get rid of that. Trust me when I tell you, I'm talking from experience.
But if she's coming today, can she do that?
The last thing you want to do is overwork the seams.
You know, we had until the first. So yeah.
If you get a little stubborn section like this, now if you push too hard, you'll make track marks on either side of this roller. And then sometimes we even push it right into the seam itself. But heat's our best friend here, and not too much of it. Okay? Just to make it just a little warm, that's all that is. On this particular thing. Look how much nicer the seam sits down, right? Now, I did not prepare the walls underneath it. So if you're seeing texture that's caused by a paint roller, I mean, that's just sloppy painting underneath it. But overall, these walls are in much better condition than the walls on the rest of the job outside. Which of those, for those of you who watch my videos, that job I'm talking about. This is the kids' playroom while their parents work out in this. This is the playroom, so the parents work out outside. Okay, so it looks better. Like I said, little heat. Let's get to know the toleration. With time, anybody who's watching this will be just as good as anybody else. Trust me. You know, you do this 1 or 2 times. You do several sheets of it. Guess what? You know just about as much as the guy who's been doing it for years. Because he perfected the skill after the 3rd or 4th time himself. Right? Ooh, I like it. I like it. Now you're going to say, yes, Spencer, get rid of the water and let me see if we like it. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Always wiping off my smoother. You don't want to scratch it, right? Oh, Spencer's very happy with this, folks. Very happy. Come on, aren't you? Aren't you very happy too? Don't you love this? I mean, honestly, don't you love it? I know I do. I mean, whatever you're good at, there's a certain happiness with making it perfect. And that is as perfect as Spencer Colgan is going to get it. That's your seam, folks. That is your seam. Love it. Believe it or not, I'm going to show you one of the biggest pieces of advice I could give to new installers. You see this? You leave this on a wall or a door, you will never get a job again from these people. This is very difficult to clean off once it solidifies. And plus, it's such an oversight on the installer's part to leave paste on surrounding trim. Just clean it off when it's wet. This way you won't have any liability issues. Plus, you stain it if you don't get it off quickly enough. You know what I mean by that. It leaves a film on it. That's what I mean by stain. So, please learn from my mistakes. As always, I'm here to help you learn from what I've done in the past. Okay, enough on that. That's what I'm referring to when I talk about if you leave that too long. This part that I'm removing right now, not removing it, but I'm lifting it, that will conform, and it'll be very difficult to get that out, even with heat. You put too much heat, you're gonna make it change its sheen, okay? This piece being the underlap, if you wait too long, usually we do things within a week, right? You prep the wall, the next day you're hanging paper. If this wall gets too soggy, this is gonna come off with pieces of the paint on the wall. Now, let's see how we did. How do you like this seam? Just clean it off.
When you got those up here, though, we were shooting for April 1st.
The final inspections are all getting done today. So as you're here, they're going to be in and out doing final inspections.
Because they didn't tell me what you're back.
But I mean, it is what it is.
As you can see, there's no, it's flush. There's none of that issue with leaving the overlap on too long. We do have a black line. We have a seam line, right? It's hairline. This looks like a long black hair, right? You can probably see that in the video. So I'm going to show you that there's a point beyond which you shouldn't go to perfect your seam. What you should expect. Watch. Watch the black line. I'm going to push my seams together. See it disappear? See it disappear? Do it again. Push. See it disappear? So don't unnecessarily work your seam. Just realize that it's just a matter of pushing it together. See, it's all disappearing. See? like it. What do you think? Now it should be really easy to push that into place with the heat. Look at the compliance you get by just adding some heat. And I can feel it's warm. You have to get the feel of the heat so you don't use too much. But if you can do that, you get it in there nicely. It's a good way to get any debris that might be on your product if you're pasting on a table or even on the floor. With the air conditioning on, keeping it at a nice temperature, I like it at 70 for the wallpaper, so that it can do its thing as I'm on the job. And so if any bubbles come up, the temperature is important to make them come out. So I keep it at 70. As you can see, the seam looks gorgeous.
On these 9-foot plus walls, I highly suggest, especially when you're using a scaffold, that you get yourself a helper. I didn't have one on this job, so I installed the gym and this playroom by myself. And it's pretty taxing on the body, as you know.
And I just laid this paper down, this graphic, this vinyl. So what I'm trying to show you here is we have a very comfortable space to cut through. Obviously this gray is the equal size of this and that, so we want to keep this here. Anyway, the corners with this vinyl, you see how the corners are rounded? Very difficult when you're dealing with this kind of vinyl. What I do is I put paste in the corner and let it set up. And then I cut the corner always, obviously. Cutting so that this wallpaper here from the window wall overlaps onto this wall. And in this case, I try to give myself more than 1/8 of an inch. I'm looking for 3/16 of an inch because this vinyl likes to constrict. Residential wallpaper, you can get away with a 1/16 of an inch. But here, you see that roundedness? That's the wall covering saying, I don't want to go into this corner. So you can anticipate that even if you gave it 1/8 of an inch into the corner, unless you heated it up and you were confident of your material, you can expect that even if you cut 1/8 of an inch, it's going to constrict this way and perhaps leave your corner with a hairline. You don't want that.
It's like a target, it's like a round target with those balls. Yeah.
didn't take my blade out since I don't absolutely have to. This is a nail biter for those who want to be perfect. Okay, let's do it.
You go with me. I already know what you're doing. I'll sign up.
Look what we're cutting here. My overlap comes off. You know, if your overlap comes off easily, you made a good cut. Please, I can't emphasize enough not to leave this on too long. See, none of the wall, look, nothing's coming off with it. If you guys have been installing for 2-3 years and you're wondering, hey, what's going on? Why is this always coming off? Well, somebody taught you wrong, right? You know what I notice in life? We get taught to do the wrong thing, and then we do it for years. We do it for years the wrong way. And then somebody comes along with less experience and says, why do you do it like that? To the guy who's been doing it wrong for years. And then the guy who's been doing it wrong for years gets annoyed because you can't tell him anything, right? Well, I have discovered that I was taught things in life by people who were doing it wrong for years. And then you pass this on to other people, and the error is multiplied over and over and over. Seriously. I'm telling you, I saw veteran installers come in on jobs, on commercial jobs. Look at, oh my gosh. Let me just shut up for a second. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, come on, I can't see the seam, and neither can you. This is not the seam. That's not the seam, that's part of the graphic. The seam is somewhere over here. Jeez. I hope you benefit from this stuff. I take a lot of time to stop my work to do these videos for people who don't know. You know? Nobody's willing to teach anybody anything, especially for free. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to share anything, and then nobody wants to give up the secrets. You know what? I show people how to do this. You know what they say? Thanks for teaching me. We want to pay you to do it. Nobody wants to do this. Right or wrong? Now, my viewers know that I also have counseling services, literally therapy, for those people who try to hang wallpaper by themselves. I offer free 1-800 15-minute sessions of therapy, especially for married people who try to remove wallpaper by themselves. I intervene before there's problems in their relationship, and so I coach them. I'm only kidding, but I do tell people that. This woman just called me and she goes, oh, I love what I read about you online, blah, blah, blah. To which I always say, thank you so much, I really appreciate that. Let me just shut up again. Folks, honestly, can you see the seam? If you can, say yes, I can see it. But if you can't see it, say, Spencer, your seam is wonderful. You look wonderful. Anyway, this woman called me and she says to me, oh, I heard so much good about you. And I said, yeah, thank you. She said, I want to hire you. That's the first thing she said. And I said, yeah, that was before my injury. So she said, oh. And I said, yeah, that was before I lost the use of my hands, my legs and feet and eyes. Do you mind if I hang it slightly off? You know what she said? She said, "Oh." I said, "Wait a second. You were just praising me." So I said, "I'm only kidding." And we both burst out into this laughter. I said, yeah, I'm great until I can't help you out, you know? So we both laughed. And I said, "Thank you for taking a joke, you know?" And, but it's true, you know? You can't fall in love with your work because one day you're not going to be able to do it. And then if this is the love of your life, you're going to be lonely one day. So let it be something subsidiary to what you really love to do.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. I know that it was a long one. If you're interested in getting wallpaper, check out this link, wallpaperboulevard.com. You get a 10% off discount if you're friends, family, or viewers of SpencerColgan.com. Just use the hashtag on your screen right now. That's hashtag SpencerColgan is wallpaper, and they'll be sure to give you a 10% off discount for all of your wallpaper selections. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing to my channel. I'll see you on the next one.